Welcome back. This is episode 2 of F1 Fridays presented by the Project Patois Car Club and myself, Aramis Mohammed. I did start off my first episode with my 2025 predictions. My top 3s, highest overachiever, underachievers, interesting things that I expect to happen this season. Today I'll be going into a little bit more in-depth analysis of my first place to last place, to give you the breakdown of the drivers, as well as the constructors, what I think is going to happen. Now, before we get into that, I want to spend a little time explaining this new F1 car launch system. So it is the 75th anniversary of F1, and they have been talking for a while to have like this season opening event. I don't know if it's something they'll be doing every year. Seems like they want to push for it. But on the 18th of February in the O2 Arena, they are having the livery launch for all the new cars. Basically, they told the teams that they have to save all their liveries for that one day. So all 10 teams are going to actually show you what the liveries are for the new season. However, it gets a little messy because some teams actually have car launches before that event. So we have Williams on the 14th, Haas on the 16th, and Racing Bulls on the 17th. They are supposed to technically release their new car, however, they're not able to show their new livery. So we do expect them to either use last year's livery or if sponsors change, etc. They may use camo liveries as we've seen before. Now, take the designs of these cars a bit lightly because I think till we go into testing in Bahrain, these cars are subject to big changes and they also don't want to play their cards too early. So some teams use a little bit of misdirection. You will see in the digital renders versus the car that comes out the first race could be a lot different. So don't put too much into it. It's more just getting you hyped and obviously the liveries, which I'm very excited for because design for me is a big deal. I will eventually do my livery rankings, etc. when they release those. But I just wanted to explain exactly what's going on. So we have a few teams, 3 teams before the 18th that will release their new car with old liveries. On the 18th, all 10 teams basically release their new liveries. And then after that, teams that remain, which will be 7, will then have different dates to launch their new cars with the liveries that they showed on the 18th. A little strange, a little bit wacky. I think it needs a lot more structure because it's going to be a little bit messy. Having that one night event is still cool. They'll get viewers, they'll get people to go to events, it'll build a buzz. But I think the way it's structured is weird. So we move on and we get right into it. So I'm trying to figure out, should I do this last to first or first to last? Now you know my top 3 already from my previous video. So I guess I'll go from first to last because it doesn't really make sense building the anticipation because you know already. So in first, I will try to keep my colors on point this one. In first, we have Max Verstappen, as I explained already. It is a bit of a carryover from last season. I do expect Max to be the most consistent driver. Will he have the best machinery this year? I don't think so. However, I think a lot of teams will be putting resources into the 2026 car. So I don't really expect Max to have a dip in form unless the car tragically lags behind McLaren and Ferrari. So for me, Max in first, just due to the carryover. We go into second, we go with Lando, and I do think McLaren will again have the fastest car moving into this season, and Lando for me is still the faster driver in that team, so I'll give it to Lando. He has a lot to work on. As I spoke before about his aggression and his race starts, he just needs that consistency. I think last season was the first time he kind of got his feet wet into a championship contention. Very different from what he was doing before with McLaren. So give him some time, give him a fast car. I think he could eventually get it done. Will he be world champion? I don't think so. but Lando in second. For me, in third place, I'll have to go with Charles Leclerc, as I said before. I do think that Charles is very good under pressure. It kind of translates into his qualifying. He's very good at qualifying. His racecraft is good as well. He has a few things to work on, but for the most part, I think pressure of Lewis Hamilton coming into that team is good for him. I don't expect him to crack under pressure. I think he might step it up a little bit more, but we'll obviously have to wait and see. I do think moving on to fourth place, I put Lewis Hamilton. A lot of people say I'm a Lewis hater or whatever the case is. No, Lewis is an amazing driver and he's finally getting some better machinery moving to Ferrari. And I do expect the team to put a lot of resources into making sure he's comfortable, making sure he's happy. Marketing wise, it's a gem. It's probably the best thing to happen to F1 for a while. So Ferrari and Lewis is going to be a force to be reckoned with. However, I do think it'll take a little bit of time just to gel with the team, to build that rapport and keep things going. And I do expect again the 2026 car to be a lot better than their 2025, because Ferrari tends to do very well with the engines. Ferrari and Mercedes are very good with their engines. So usually when there's an engine change in the regulations, they come out fairly well. Who knows if they're going to be on top, but for now, Lewis in fourth. We move on to fifth, where I will go with Piastri. Again, I do expect McLaren to have the faster car. In terms of experience, Leclerc and Lewis for me beats Piastri. He is building more experience and he is a very consistent driver, already a race winner at this young age. And he shows the tenacity that I think plenty drivers lack. I think that slowly over time, Piastri will be able to maybe overtake Lando Norris in that McLaren team to be number one driver. However, it'll take a few years. It also depends on the direction of the development of the car, if it's gonna suit Piastri, Lando. They seem to be both very adaptable. But I see Piastri doing well again this season, and him having the McLaren is going to obviously be a plus because it's the best car in my mind. Moving on to sixth, George Russell in sixth. I do think that, as I said before, Mercedes is running a little bit under the radar. I do expect them to have a quick car again. How quick? They were in the ascendancy coming up to the end of last season, but I don't know if they're going to catch up with the other teams in the beginning of the season. I do expect maybe as time goes on, get to the middle of the season, they could pump out some better performances. As we saw last season, they're lagging a little bit behind in development. George Russell for me is very consistent unless he's fighting for first place. As we all know, he's a bit of a choke artist. I don't want to say that he can't really win races. He can, but he has to step it up. I think he has aggression, but that pressure, he just kind of breaks under pressure when somebody's behind him and in first place. So let's see if George could do better than my prediction in sixth. We move on to Liam Lawson back in the Red Bull seat. We do have my first rookie here. Actually, I lie, Lawson is not a rookie. Lawson came in last season, but newer driver, in seventh. And I do think the Red Bull is not the strongest car. Liam Lawson has a bit of experience, and I think seventh is fair for him. I don't want to put too much into it because I think he needs to get some time in that Red Bull. I do think the Red Bull and that Racing Bulls car is very different, so it's going to take him a bit of time to get used to it. Seventh place for me and eighth place is a bit of a flip-flop. I could see either going seventh or eighth. We move on to eighth for me with Kimi Antonelli, which is, my apologies, now the first actual rookie on my rankings. I have Kimi in eighth. As I said, he could kind of come seventh or eighth in my mind between Lawson depending on the car development and how it goes throughout the season, Kimi is an amazing talent, a bit raw. People like to compare him to Max in terms of his raw talent. Who knows? Time will tell. I do expect him to do well. He has a lot of expectation on him as well with Mercedes, but I don't think they'll rush him. I don't expect Mercedes to really care about a title fight for constructors this year. So they will just give him time to really settle in the car, settle in the team, and slowly grow. They put a lot of eggs in his basket, so they're going to have to give him some time. We move on now to Williams. We could probably give Williams this shade. And for me in 9th place is Carlos Sainz. Now, Williams is the first car to have their actual launch. If we take it back to last year, Williams was the car that we probably didn't even know if they could race in race 1, if they would have enough parts, if they had enough resources to make it happen. So it's a big flip. I do think their new team principal is in the right direction, restructuring everything, and he has the right mentality. So I think Sainz coupled with a team in the ascendancy, also a little bit of throwback of me wanting Williams to do well. I put Sainz in 9th. I think he's an amazing driver. It's sad to see him have to leave Ferrari. It is what it is. Business is business. But I've tipped Sainz to beat Albon, who for me comes in 10th. I do think Albon is great, but Sainz has a little bit more pedigree than he does, a little bit more experience in the faster cars. Albon didn't do so well when he went up against Max in that Red Bull seat, but I think the Williams will have a very strong team pairing. Other than Ferrari and maybe McLaren, I think they have one of the stronger team pairings. So I think they'll be very consistent. If the car is developed in the right direction and they lose some of those crashy characteristics, they lost their drivers that crash a lot. So I think that'll help with the consistency. So for me, Sainz in 9th, and in 10th it will be Albon. And I think the pressure on Albon from Sainz will do him well. We move on to 11th. Let's get that pink for my boy Pierre Gasly, one of my favorite racers on this, a bit of an unsung hero, but him and Ocon had that battle in Alpine last year. He came out on top, and I do expect him to continue his top form. Now, my big question mark here is the Alpine car. Last season we saw it a bit flip-floppy, started off rough, went in the right direction and started to put in some performances. I do expect him to be able to score some points, so I have him in 11th. Now, moving on to 12th, we'll go with white. Ocon, Gasly's old teammate, for me, is going to beat his new teammate in Nico Hülkenberg. No, I lied. Nico Hülkenberg is now in stake. So sorry, Behrman, Ocon and Behrman, yes, get that mixed up. So Ocon is gonna beat Behrman for me in Haas, obviously, and I do think he'll take the lead in Haas for a bit of time. He is one of the drivers with more experience than you even realize. I think he's been in here for a good few years, and I do think that battle between the Alpine and Haas will be a bit close. Hülkenberg, Alonso, Behrman, yeah, it's a tough one. So coming up to this group, we have like 11, 12, 13, 14. For me, Gasly is a bit above the rest. Then we have Ocon in 12th. We move on to Yuki Tsunoda, which for me is my boy Yuki. Crazy, lost out on that Red Bull seat. I don't know about this Racing Bulls new car. Their development has been, I don't want to say very good. We expected them to do better last season. Yuki scores points, but the team is meh. It's a training ground for Red Bull. I don't think they do enough to really give these drivers a good car and put enough resources into it. I do expect Yuki as well to have his last season in Racing Bulls this year. We did see that he was overlooked for that Red Bull seat, which is unfortunate, but I think he'll be moving on to another team, maybe Aston, with that Honda relationship. But he comes 13th for me. I also think he's a good driver, but the car for me is a big question mark. Now we move on to Hulkenberg, which is back in green. Now we're waiting to see this new livery for what you call this team, the Kick Sauber team that is going to transition into Audi. Now Hulkenberg, amazing qualifying driver, but he tends to fall down the ranks. So I don't know how he's gonna do with this slowest car. To me, the Sauber is the slowest car in the entire paddock. But Hulkenberg has experience, and I think he's going to do very well. For me, 14th and 15th is a bit of a flip-flop. I have Alonso in 15th. Looking at it now, I probably really should have put him above Hulkenberg, because Alonso in a Aston, Hulkenberg in a Sauber. I think Alonso might tip him. So alright, let me do that. Let me make the switch. For me, I'm gonna put Alonso in 14th in the Aston Martin, and then Hulkenberg in 15th. So excuse me, I don't really have to change the color though, because two of them supposed to be green. Aston doesn't change, but we don't know yet with the state team. So Aston, big issue is that they have a shit car, to be honest. Adrian Newey is gonna take a while to kind of rein that in and get the car in the development direction that he likes. So for now, I think they're gonna stink for a while. Alonso, one of the best drivers ever, bit past his prime in my mind, but he still has the experience and knows what he's doing. And if they give him a good car, he could definitely win races and be on podiums easily. Right now, that is not the case. So for me, Alonso in 14th. Then, as I said before, Hulkenberg is gonna drop to 15th. We move to Ollie Behrman, which we're back in Haas. And for me, Behrman, in terms of the rookies, is one of the ones to watch for me. I think he's one of the racers that has a bit of experience, although he's a rookie, he's not a real rookie. And it should tip him to do a little bit better than the rest. We also saw when he was given the opportunities last year, he was very good. I think with this full season under his belt, he'll only get better, and his ceiling is very high. I think raw pace, people say Kimi is maybe a level above Behrman, but in terms of consistency, Behrman has shown it. So for me, 16th, just due to the inexperience, I do still think he'll be quick, but he might have a few mistakes, might cost him to drop out of points. So that's why there's a bit of a gap between Ocon and Behrman, although they're in the same car. So we move on to Isaac Hajar. Now, Isaac has, how to put it, he's one of the more underrated ones. People don't really have high expectations of him. I don't really either. Now, he has a good history, but he's not one of the Kimmys and the Behrmans. Even Bortoletto kind of has a bit more, I don't know, expectations. But he'll fly under the radar. I don't know how long he's going to last if he doesn't perform. I think Isaac really has to maybe beat Yuki or come close to Yuki to kind of show that he has that opportunity to move into. That's the problem, is do you move into Red Bull? Red Bull doesn't really have a place right now unless Lawson drops the ball, and I don't think they will just throw him into that Red Bull seat. They have other options first, such as Yuki. So for me, Isaac in 17th, he's one of those drivers where it's a bit of a question mark. We don't really know what to expect from him, so playing it a little safe there. We move to 18th. For me, the worst driver of them all, Mr. Lance Stroll. I hope that this is one of his last seasons. I do think with Adrian Newey there, they would want to get the car in the right direction and get the team in the right direction. Aston Martin has also put a lot of eggs in the World Endurance Championship, and they're going to put their Valkyrie project into endurance racing. I think it's a very graceful move for Stroll to move from F1 to the endurance racing. I think he could do well there, but in F1 he's just wasting a spot in my mind. So yeah, just due to the fact that he has some experience, he's not a horrible driver. I don't think he needs to be here anymore. 18th for me. We move 19th. We have Bortoleto. Now, again, he is in the worst car in my mind. Sorry, forget to change. He's unfortunate in that aspect. We will see moving forward if I don't know. You see, I don't even know if he'll have a seat for 2026. So I don't have much anticipation to see him the following year. So next question mark. Let's see how he does. Shit car, questionable seat. It's just one of those things. So I have him in 19th. Now he has good experience, but we don't know. Now we move on to Doohan. Now Jack Doohan is very unfortunate that this talk is going around that he's not going to last for the entirety of this season. I don't know, to be honest, if Colapinto will take the seat from him mid-season, few races in, end of the season, who knows. But due to the fact that I don't expect him to keep his job, he has to be last in my books. So I don't think Alpine will have a horrendous car, but Doohan for me is not going to last. Colapinto, they sign him for 5 years. They're going to put him in the car at some point. So it's quite unfortunate, but it is what it is. So that is my driver first to last prediction. I'll run through it quickly again. We have Max in first, Lando in second, Leclerc in third, Lewis in fourth, Piastri in fifth, George Russell in sixth, Liam Lawson in seventh, Kimi Antonelli in eighth, Carlos Sainz in ninth, Albon in 10th, Gasly 11th, Ocon 12th, Yuki 13th, Hulkenberg 14th, Alonso 15th, Ollie Behrman 16th, Isaac Hadjar 17th, Stroll 18th, 19th Bortoleto, and 20th Jack Doohan. So I'll try to fit that somewhere on the screen. I don't know if we have space here or what, but yeah, I'll try my best. And we move on to the actual Constructors Championship, first to last. This isn't going to take that long because technically from my drivers you can see how it would translate into Constructors a bit. We get right into it with McLaren for me in first. As I said before, fastest car. I expect them to stay the fastest for now, at least till those new regulations kick in. So easy peasy in my mind. Ferrari is their next top contender due to consistency. Best driver lineup in my mind for years in Formula One history, maybe. But Ferrari in second for me due to the fact that I think they'll be very consistent. Leclerc and Lewis, amazing combination. We move on to my team. Red Bull in third. Max is Max, he'll do his thing. Liam Lawson is a bit of a question mark, so I don't know what he's going to do yet. But I still think, obviously, if we do the math and Max in my mind is winning the Drivers' Championship, then Constructors, Red Bull can't do too bad. So for me, still third place. I think third and fourth for me is a bit of a flip-flop because I do expect Mercedes to do well. I put them in fourth, but I could easily see them in third too if Max doesn't really pull through that dominant set of races where he wins the championship but comes like second, third, that kind of thing. I do think Mercedes can overtake Red Bull. So for now, Mercedes in fourth, Antonelli, George Russell. Expect them to do very well. That raw talent from Antonelli may take some time, but George is pretty consistent unless he crashes because somebody's trying to overtake him. Then we move on to Williams. For me, Sainz and Albon partnership, the second strongest in my mind right now. Well, no lie. Third strongest because we have Piastri and Lando. So for me, third strongest lineup, Sainz and Albon. They should do well. Fifth place once they're given a car going in the right direction. Also, due to the fact that Williams is launching first, I think is a bit of a ballsy move, and hopefully they have their shit together. So that is that. Move on to Haas. Haas is a mixed bag usually. They have two new racers in Ollie Behrman and Esteban Ocon. I do think Ocon is very quick. Just mentality wise, he has to sort himself out with his teammates. So let's see if Ollie and him could get along. If so, then I do expect them to do well. We move on to Racing Bulls. I don't think they have a great car, to be honest. Isaac Hadjar, question mark. Yuki is very good. Could have his moments, but last season he was good for the most part. So for me, 7th and 8th could kind of flip-flop a bit because I do then have Alpine in 8th. Now, as I said, Jack Doohan might flip to Color Pinto somewhere during the season. I do expect that transition, if it happens, to affect their points scoring. That's why, although I think they will be quickish, they went in 8th for me just due to that. We move on to Aston Martin in 9th. Stroll, no points. I don't expect him to score any points this season. And Alonso will do what Alonso can do. I think he'll score points, obviously, but not very many. So yes, I put Aston second to last, which is quite interesting. Dead last for me is that Kick Sauber team, which is transitioning to Audi. Their car was horrible last season, and I expect it to be horrible again this season. Hopefully they don't have any pit stop issues like they did the beginning of last season. So who knows? They could score points, but in my mind they're not. So that will be my constructors. Let me just run it through again. For me, first McLaren, second Ferrari, Red Bull third, Mercedes fourth, Red Bull Mercedes for me is flip-flop, Williams fifth, sixth Haas, seventh Racing Bulls, eighth Alpine. For me, Racing Bulls and Alpine could kind of flip-flop. And then Aston Martin in ninth, Kick Sauber, Stake 10th, Future Audi 10th. Now keep in mind, this is one of the last seasons that we are going to have 10 teams because we have Cadillac joining in the future and he'll be 11 teams. So I thought that would be interesting to mention. Now, keep in mind, look out for testing starts in Bahrain actually this year on the 26th of February to the 28th. So all this hocus pocus that we just went through could go out the window when we see testing and things are completely different. Maybe Sauber comes with the quickest car or Aston comes with the quickest car and we have Red Bull dead last. Who knows? We have to wait till testing, to be honest. So I'll probably have to delete this video. However, look out for testing, look out for the launches, look out for their new liveries, and for that big event coming up, let me tell you, on the 18th of February, as well as our F1 league is going to resume. Now, I think this year I'll be doing two leagues. I'll do a paid league and I'll do a free league as usual. The free league, I'll try to do prizes throughout the season, and I will put that code up once I get renewed. I'll post it. And then the paid league, I will do it like my other fantasy leagues where I have a WhatsApp group. We'll decide what the buy-in is together and the payouts together and structure it properly. So if anyone is interested in joining either of the leagues, you can message me and I will give you the information, add you to the WhatsApp group, and we'll go from there. So thank you again for tuning in. This was episode 2. I'll call it first to last. And also, while I still have my friend's autograph Charles Leclerc helmet, I use it as a prop before it goes to the owner. It's a bit of a flex. If you need any Formula One collectibles, let me know. That is my thing. I can get you autograph, memorabilia, trading cards, whatever you need. So, bye bye. Thanks for tuning in.